Hello, and welcome back to the Franchise Millionaire Show. I'm your host, Andrea Bailey Brown, and I'm excited to be back here with you for another special episode. I started this podcast because I believe we needed to have a voice to talk about the world of franchising, to talk about business, investing in yourself, building generational wealth, and what it really takes to make that leap to be your own boss, to be an owner, to do the thing that you have been dreaming about doing. And so that is the main reason I wanted to host this podcast. And we are doing it. We're getting great feedback, great reviews. And if you have not yet left a review for us, it is time. What are you waiting on? All right, you're waiting on more content. So here it is, and let's do it. So today's topic is something that you are going to really want to take notes on, that you're going to really enjoy, because this question comes up quite frequently and quite often. And it is all about the world of semi absentee ownership or passive ownership in the franchising world, and wanting to own a business where the word semi, just by saying it, you kind of know what it means. It's kind of like part time. You're not really fully in it, you're not running it all the time, right? So that's what the semi part means. And passive is just like you have the business, but you're really lightly involved. And so I was doing a consult with someone a few weeks ago, and this came up again where they're like, I want something that kind of just stays there. Maybe it is a business I don't have to do much with. There's certain industries where people now, because of the internet, everyone is really thinking that it is more possible to do it part time, like maybe laundromats. For some people, it could also be car washes, restaurants fall under that category as well. And so I wanted to set the record straight on what the reality is as I know it in this great franchising world. So let us start there. So I'm going to start off with basically looking at what's the difference between the two when we talk about semi absentee ownership and passive ownership. So the first one is semi absentee basically means that it's a business model where you're involved in your franchise on a part time basis and typically 10 to 20 hours per week. So, of course, you are involved but not full time. Now, is that 10 to 20 hours per week set in stone? Not really, but sort of, because each franchise brand will determine what makes this absentee and how much time they believe you should be looking at spending in your business in order for your business to be successful, right? Because if you're investing in something, you want it to be successful, you want to make money from it. You're not just investing just for, nobody ever comes to me and says, Andrea, I would like to just lose money today. No one says that. So we all know it's about making money. So the 10 to 20 hours per week is on average as to what you may need to spend for it to be semi absentee. And as I said, each franchise brand have a different definition based on their business model, what that would look like. So, what does it also mean when you are semi absentee? It means that you maintain kind of a strategic oversight of the business. You're handling high level and making high level management decisions in the company. So someone is there all the time and you're going to come in and also work. You could be working in the business but working on the books. You could be just filling in a few hours so that you understand how to sell, what is going right in the business, what could be going wrong, and what changes need to be made in your business. Usually, you're also employing a full time manager that handles the day to day operations of the franchise. And you're going to visit your franchise locations regularly, but not necessarily you're going to be there daily, like day in and day out. So you basically have some of those options. And you often, most people love this option for what the number one reason is that you get to keep your primary job or your other business interests. You may have other businesses as well. You want to keep those and you are not ready to give them up at this point in time. So that's what people mostly love about semi absentee and this business model because they are just not ready yet to quit a job or leave what they're doing. And some people have already left their jobs, they have businesses, but they want to build and have other things going. So, we're going to talk a little bit more about who those people are. So, this type of model requires you to be engaged and available, but not physically present full time in the business. So, you're still actively, though, participating in business decisions because after all, it is your business, right? So you're participating in some of those business decisions. So let's talk more a little bit about passive ownership and what that really means. So passive ownership means that you have more of a hands-off approach, right? This is you're functioning as an investor in the business. But let's talk about that word investor, right? Investor in typically means you have money to put into something and just leave it there and you're really not a part of it. Investor also comes from that world of real estate where you're a real estate investor and you buy the property and you just let the property sit. You get a renter in it and you're not doing much, but that is in real estate. Who do they call when, if let's say you have like a triplex, multiplex, and the plumbing, there's a problem there, right? The light isn't working or something else is needs fixing. Who do they call? So in real estate, even though it's passive, there's still someone there that they have to reach out to collect the rent when someone doesn't pay. When as I said, the lights aren't working, the washing machine is malfunctioning. Who are they calling? So it is more passive. So then people get into business and entrepreneurship and they think it's the exact same thing as real estate where the building sits and someone is there. So it's a little bit different, but you must have money and quite a bit of it if you just want to be, if your goal is just to be an investor in the company. All right. Another thing is with passive ownership, you're hiring management teams to handle virtually all of the operations. And you just have to plan for that. If you're saying, I want to own a restaurant, right? And we're talking like a dine-in restaurant or a fast food, a QSR business. Let's just, we're talking, let's say Popeyes. You want to own that or a few of those, but you don't want to run it or whatever. So who's going to run it? Okay, you're going to hire a general manager and you got to have money to run the operations between all the 15, 20 staff that you need, plus that GM that's going to be getting up every day running the business and all the customer issues and everything that comes up. So you can be passive, but you have to make sure you have money for the entire team. And something else that gets affected in that you really have to think about, if your profits were going to be, I don't know, 40%, now your profits may only get down to, 20% because some of that now has to go to someone else. So that's the reality of running businesses, right? That you are not in. People need to get paid for the work that they're doing to give you the free time. So you're buying back your time. It's called buying. It's not gifting. You're buying back your time because you're buying it by giving that to someone else to do the work for you. In passive ownership, your involvement may be limited to reviewing financial reports. So, and going to, the lawyers and tax accounting people and that, which is part of now my role, I would say with Jiffy Lube has become very passive. I basically am not part of the day to day. We've always had managers in the stores who can do the work and we trust them. And that takes time to build these managers, people who understand your system and can make great decisions. So I'm very much more passive ownership. And yes, when major decisions need to be made, someone, maybe a main person, has to go, we have to hire someone else. Papers need to be reviewed, end of tax season, dividend decisions, shareholders, all of that. That's mostly when I'm showing up. However, I didn't get to passive ownership in this company day one, right? Did not happen. It took a few years. But if you are someone that's interested in multi-unit ownership of franchises, you would more than likely be having semi-passive ownership in some way, shape, or form, because of course you cannot be in multiple locations every day at the same time. So you rarely need to visit the physical location. Case in point, that would be me. Rarely need to visit. And your time commitment is typically under 5 hours a week, or maybe, a few hours a month, depending on where your locations are. And if they're out of state, out of province. So for my locations that were out of province, definitely the visitation was very, very low, maybe once every 3 months or 5 months, or then it got to 6 months, 8 months, got very longer because the team there was really solid. And there's something called, there's the phone, there's FaceTime, if things they want to show you certain things, and people to call that can fix them. So true passive ownership can happen in franchising, but we have to be careful when you're looking at a brand, figuring out what does passive actually mean and over what period of time for you to actually get there. So, what are some of the key differences? Semi absentee means you're actively involved in strategy and oversight, and passive, you're primarily an investor with minimal operational involvement. And your goal is to manage the managers. So that's what it is. So here's a case study that I looked at one of the brands that we represent here. As the founder and CEO at Bailey Brown, the franchise agency, we represent over 600 different franchises in about 40 different sectors or industries, right? So I had a look in preparation for this podcast, went through the inventory, and we're looking to see which one have the word that they are passive or they're semi-absentee, and sort of reading through what it means for each of the brands, because everyone has a different definition. Every franchise brand feels differently about it and over what period of time. And you have to trust these brands. If they have opened 30 locations, 50, 60, 100 locations, and they have seen the success rate and what it means, then we're going to have to listen to the people. That's why we're investing in franchises. We want the historical data. Give us the tea from the beginning. Let us know what works and what doesn't work, what you've seen and mistakes, and so we can avoid some of those costly mistakes. So one of the brands that we looked at, they basically said, yes, you can be they do allow for semi-passive ownership. And this was in like the furnishing world, furniture, etc., this franchise. And they basically said, yes, semi-passive ownership for us is allowed when you hire a salaried general manager to run the store. It would be wise to offer this manager additional compensation or sweat equity options for them to have skin in the game. We asked the franchisee to definitely still be involved, and they can decide on what that looks like for them. But at minimal, staying engaged with the general manager and the corporate team on a weekly basis or a daily basis if you need to. So that is what this one brand, we looked at what they wanted, that's how they defined it and said, that they would actually, they would allow for semi-passive ownership or semi-absentee when you hire a general manager to be able to run the business. So if you are a new franchisee, this is your first time getting into franchising, and you have no prior business knowledge, this may not be for you on the first go around if you have no prior business knowledge, or about how to manage people and manage a manager. This is a whole new system when it's your business versus you may have come at a corporate, you manage people, but now this means a bit more to you because it definitely is your own business. Creating a life on your own terms. So let me ask you, why are you still stuck in the 9 to 5 grind when financial freedom is right in front of you? I want to show you exactly how to break free and become a 7-figure franchise owner. And I'm doing it for free in my Become a Franchise Millionaire 5-day challenge, happening March 24th to 28th. In 60 minutes a day, you'll learn the millionaire franchise mindset that sets successful owners apart, how to choose the perfect franchise for you, and the funding secrets to make it happen without feeling overwhelmed. And because I love action takers, I'm giving away exclusive bonuses, including a private live Q&A with me and a VIP offer to work with my team. But listen, spots are limited, and once they're gone, they are gone. So if you are ready to take control of your future, grab your free seat now at bbfranchiseagency.com. Let's make you the next franchise millionaire. We will see you there. Another thing that I wanted to question I often get asked is what types of franchises are best suited for passive or semi absentee ownership. And I've looked through our portfolio of what the brands that we represent, and there is no set category. Most people now from the internet know about like laundromats, car washes, but I've also seen in furnishing, in food, in home services, in fitness, in childcare. It really does matter what the franchisor is seeing and which brands you want to work with. So there's quite a few that is out there. It is not limited to only certain industries. So one of the things, if you are looking at going with passive ownership, something that I've noticed is on average, a lot of the businesses though will have maybe 5 to 6 employees because you are not going to be there, and so these employees will be running things as well. Another brand that we looked at, and we asked, does semi-absentee work? And they said yes, but here their requirement was you have to be business savvy in order to be in their business. So again, what does that mean? It means that this is not your first time at the rodeo. Being business savvy, meaning you've owned businesses before and you actually know how to run a company, right? Another thing is some of the brands that we looked at, they also said you should have good management skills, meaning that you've worked in a business before, maybe in corporate where you're managing people. So having good management skills really matter. Solid financials, right? Solid financials. So that can be interpreted many ways, but let's interpret it our way here. Solid means solid. You're not weak on the money. You're not barely getting in. You're not, if I invest in this, I don't know how I'm going to eat the next day. That's not really what's considered solid. It means that you can invest and you can also afford to pay your manager, do all of that as the business is building and growing, right? So we're not right now talking necessarily about all resales. Sometimes resales, you can kind of know what how the brand has been doing in the past. But so solid financials really just mean that you are coming in very strong and also with a high net worth, right? So net worth really matters for franchisors because they use that to determine your strength as a potential owner. So just like the banks, when you're going to buy a house, they're going to look at your net worth, or they're going to look at your debt to credit ratio. How much down payment do you have? Once you buy this house, will you be able to eat? And food is important these days. Will you be able to eat? Will you be able to pay the utilities like the heat and the water and the lights and all of that, and pay this mortgage and pay for your car and put gas in it and do all of that? So likewise, franchisors use net worth to determine what can you actually afford, to be a part of their business. So those are some of the things that we were seeing when we were checking to see what are franchisors looking for in terms of those who can get into passive ownership. And again, like I say, you need to make sure you have your business savvy, you have those business skills, and you also have previous business experience. Really helps because they can see like, oh yeah, then you actually know how to manage and run a team and take care of business. All right. Now, one of the things that I've seen is that there was a automotive company that had a business in British Columbia, and we were visiting, and there was someone there, and he had been there for a long time with them. The owners lived in a completely different city, and there he was managing. And then we basically checked in to say, hey, tell me, like, you've been here a while, how are things going? And of course, found out that he had some ownership in the business, like a 10%. And that's what you also have to be prepared to do. If you actually want to be passive owner and you have a business that's running out of state without you, out of your city, somewhere else that you don't even live, how do you help to guarantee that that person will care about the business as much as you do? And you basically sometimes have to give up something. And we talked a little bit earlier about your profits, right? Maybe you could make 50% profit if it's just you showing up, being an owner operator. But you are saying, no, I want to do more things. So you now have to be prepared. Instead of making your 50% or your 30%, it's now going to go down, right? So be okay with the reality and the realities of passive and being absent, and not being there all the time. So that's what they did in that automotive company, just to make sure that this person cared as much about the business as they did, and that they stay there for a period, like they stay there for a good period of time, right? So those are some of the things that you have to really consider. So the financial considerations and the ROI expectations are some things that we all have to set. When I work with clients and we do client consults, everyone really wants great return on investments. Again, no one has ever come to me and said, hey, Andrea, I just want to get the minimum investment return on investment I can. No, everybody wants, 15% seems low. They want 20, 30%, 40%. It's exciting, but yet you don't want to put in all of the time yourself. So you have to decide what matters most to you when you are looking to invest in a business. Um, so another thing is, when you've kept your job, right, you have to know that if you're keeping your job, there will be some time management challenges that you have to get through, that you have to work on, because you're going to be running your own business and you're still keeping your day job. Be prepared to learn great time management skills as your business is growing. Emergency situations can come up while you're in your day job, and I kept my job in the beginning of ownership and then resigned because there were things that started to come up. The business was growing, and I had to make sure that I kept my focus on the things that matter. And the faster, once I decide to go all in, I'm going to have to say my business grew a lot faster than had I been straddling trying to do both things. Now, that's what worked for me as an example, and for many other people that I've seen that has invested in franchises that I've gotten to know and asked them, what did they do and how long it took them? Did they, when did they leave their jobs? So I do understand, like in the beginning, it's okay to keep your job as you're figuring out as you're building the business, but you have to give yourself some time limitation as well, because it's really hard to be, to be chasing, they say chasing two rabbits. So make sure that you are, somewhat focused on what's the best thing for you to do and when you are going to do that. Another thing is, for some people, weekends and evenings become working hours for them, because if you're in your 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, the evenings and the weekends is where you're going to have to be going in and running your business and basically, operating it and figuring it out. So let's talk a little bit about the financial considerations during this time when you're trying to decide semi-absentee or, what you want to do, but you are investing in a business, and every business needs time to grow. And even if you're doing a resale, it's going to need time unless you're happy exactly where it's doing. But again, I rarely meet people who are saying, oh, you know what, my business is doing 500,000 and I'm happy here. No, everybody wants more and more and want it to go greater and better. And if that's the case, then you have to make sure you're taking in consideration those financial considerations. So maintaining steady income during the beginning part is of the business, of course that's going to be important to you. So, and it's not the most profitable period in a company from, startup. And there's some few unicorn stories out there, but day one is not where, like, in 2 weeks you're getting your 2 weeks paycheck again and it's all hunky dory. Not quite that way. So you may have to use your salary to cover some of those business expenses as you're building your company. And these are the things that we'll find out when we review each franchise to see what the expectations are. There are no guarantees, but what they can do is to show you what other franchisees have done. So in the franchising world, in this world, we cannot say we guarantee you this. Like Charles Barkley used to say, guarantee. No, there is no like guarantee, but there's our numbers that you can look at. There are franchisees that you can speak to, and when you speak to them, you can say, how has it been for you? What's been the reality? And again, that I would say is the beauty of franchising, that you actually have people that you can go and talk to that will be able to tell you how it's been for them and what's been, how the earnings have been. And another thing is, if you're in semi-absentee and the business is making some money, you can use that to reinvest the profits, rather than immediately needing an income. So you can take those profits, you can put it into other employees, you can put it into marketing and advertising, right? And just brand building. You can put your money elsewhere. So basically, I would say choosing franchises with proven systems, for semi-absentee owners is a great way to go. Set realistic expectations with employers and with your business partners that are going in as to, hey, this is how we're going to do it. Now, I was part of a franchise system, where I've exited because I realized that, the expectations weren't there and everyone wanted to keep their jobs and no one wanted to really go all in on the franchise system. So you have to evaluate the team. Who is steering this ship? Who is the captain now, right? And in looking at that system, I just realized, oh, everyone thinks it's a good thing, but no one wants to go all in. At some point, you got to go all in on the thing that you believe in, and you have to decide how long, you want to keep that going. You're gonna have to create some strict boundaries between your job and, your business roles, because they will be conflicting. And sometimes what I see is some people, because as I said, the 2 week paycheck, whoever came up with that, it was a brilliant thing because all of a sudden now that's everything, it dictates everything for you. And you have to be careful it doesn't override your business and how fast your business can actually go. You have to have contingency plans for when conflicts come up and things don't go the way you may want it to go, right? So that is part of it. So I just want to let you know that semi absentee ownership, passive ownership, it is quite possible in the franchising world. Franchisors, they love it, they appreciate it, they will let you know up front if they think it will work. Some of the brands we work with, they just say no, it just does not work, and you can know to move on to the next one. And that's what we hear at the franchise agency. We work with you to help you figure out which brands are semi-absentee, which ones are better passive, how much money do you need, what's the reality, and so that you can make what I think is important, an informed decision. Do not make these decisions just willy-nilly because everyone says, yes, just buy laundromats and that's good. How much are those? Who's going to manage it when the machine breaks down? Who's going to go in? And the car wash, right? I go to a car wash. Some of them are now using the tap cards. You got to buy the ticket. What happens? I see signage out of, out of commission. They're not working. What do you do? So it's how passive is passive, and what does it really, really mean in the reality? Because if you're on the internet streets, they make you think everything is just sexy, like that. This car wash magically just runs itself day in day out for years, and it's like the fairies taking care of it and you don't have to do anything. Wow, that's really, really great. I know someone who owns it was a car wash, but you know what, they have someone like a manager person who's attached next to their building, and they're the ones that have to take care of it for them, right? So it's just not magically. The soap is always in there and the money's being collected, and they're like, who's doing that? This fairy just comes up at night. Come on, let's get it real, people. Anyways, if you want more information on the semi-passive franchises that we have or the passive ones, reach out and I'd be really happy to help you. So if this episode was helpful to you, drop a comment. Let me know um, what you liked, what you appreciated learning, anything that we said here, because I want you to become a future franchise millionaire. Have a great day. Bye.